These testimonials are representative of my or our experiences, but the exact results and experience will be unique and individual to each person. The information provided herein is not medical advice and is not intended to substitute for the advice of your personal physician or other healthcare providers. Welcome to The Beautiful Bag. This is your host, LeeAnne Hayden, cancer survivor, and more importantly, ostomy lifer. Each and every week, I'm going to be bringing a special guest or some inspiration for you and a few little stories along the way so that you can learn what life is like for us to be living in an ostomy and why we all think it's a beautiful bag. So listen in and let's get started. Single week joining in and listening to the stories that others share, listening to some of the things that happen in my life and my world, and then like I did the last couple of episodes, just kind of reviewing a book that I read and I thought that it was important. Once in a while I will do that and maybe I'll get in a little more detail, or that book was just chopped full of so much information that it could have been a 10-part series, for crying out loud. Anyways, I wanted to come to you this week and talk to you about, there's a lot of new listeners out there, and I know I've shared other people's stories, and it's very rare that I share my own. I don't really share my own all that much. Sometimes I might say a few things, during a podcast, but I figured this week I would just take a minute, introduce myself, and share my ostomy journey, what led me into having an ostomy, and some of the things that I've done over the years, or even through the process of finding the cancer and then ending up in an ostomy. Some of the things that I did that truly helped me to get my mind right? Because like we always say, it's a mental game more than not just a physical game. It's a mental game that we have to go through, and we grow stronger going through this process. So back in, September of 2015, at the time I was working in direct sales. I had built a large business, and I had joined another company. Tyra Banks, the supermodel Tyra Banks, had decided she wanted to launch a cosmetics line, and she wanted to do it as direct sales. And seeing that I had built businesses before, and I wasn't quite sure in the beginning how she was going to do it. I just knew she was going to do a cosmetics line, and I'm like, whatever Tyra's going to do, I want to be a piece of it. If she's looking for affiliates or whatever it is, I want to be a part of that. So I had filled out an application and was selected to be one of the first 200 people to start that company with her in the front line to her, and she decided to go direct sales, the direct sales route. So needless to say, I was building that business. I was growing a team. I was busy all the time. And something just wasn't right. Something didn't feel right. And I'll get into a little, you know what? I might as well just get into detail with it with you guys, because this is why you're listening, right? So as a female, I was 45 years old at the time, and I was 44 at the time. Anyways, my monthly cycles were starting to hurt. Something started to be painful, and whenever I would use a tampon, it would actually go in sideways. So something was off, and I wasn't quite sure, and I was sweating a little bit more. And so in my head, I'm like, maybe I'm just going through menopause. Maybe I'm starting the change early. Like maybe there's something going on. So during this time, it was the end of the summer of 2015. I had earned a trip to go meet Tyra for the very first time. In person, her and I, probably about 15 to 20 of us were going to meet her one-on-one for the very first time. And something just didn't feel right. And I'm like, maybe it's a UTI, maybe something's going on. And my girlfriend's like, well, you can't go meet Tyra being uncomfortable. So will you just go to the damn doctor? Just go to the doctor already. So I go to the doctor, and she tests me, and she's like, you don't have a UTI, but let's do an exam and we'll see what's going on. So I laid on the table, my feet up in the straps, right? And ladies, you know how uncomfortable and vulnerable you are in that position as it is. And all of a sudden, all I heard her say is, "What the hell is that?" she felt it. So during the exam, she started tapping at it, and she felt this lump. She felt this just spongy. It's spongy. I don't know. It feels kind of like cystic. It looks like it could be a cyst. Let's do an ultrasound. So we did an ultrasound, and she goes, I really think it's just a cyst. It doesn't look like there's any blood flow to it, so I don't think it's cancer. However, maybe we should have you go see an oncologist as well, just in case, because of your family history. So I'm like, that's fine. Can I still go to California and meet Tyra? Can I just wear compression socks or something? She goes, you know what? We don't really know. It doesn't look so bad. So wear compression socks. Go enjoy your weekend. We'll get back to this when you get back. So I came back a week later. She had set me up with an oncologist. I went to the oncologist, and we did some genetic testing and found out that my family has something called Lynch Syndrome. And basically, Lynch Syndrome is what leads to colon cancer, uterine cancer, those types of cancers. So the doctor, the oncologist, said, you know what, we'll just do surgery, your choice. We can do a full hysterectomy. We think this is just a cyst. We'll go in and take this whole thing out. We'll do a full hysterectomy, take everything out, test it to make sure, and then that's one less thing you have to worry about for the rest of your life, and then we'll take the cyst along with it while we're in there. I'm like, fine, you know what, that sounds simple enough, whatever. So I go to surgery, I get out of surgery, I wake up out of surgery, and the doctor goes, well, I have some news. We did the full hysterectomy, and it was clean. Like, we tested everything, like your uterus was clean, like everything was clean. There was nothing, no signs of anything there. So it was very healthy. Okay. So then she goes, however, we didn't get the blob, and she would call it a blob. She didn't want to scare me. She goes, we didn't get the blob out. It's still there. It was so far down when we went to get it. It was so far embedded into your pelvis floor that we couldn't reach it. And where it is, I called in a colorectal surgeon to come in, and he decided, let's just leave it there. Let's just leave it there for now. Let's let her heal from the surgery while we test to find out what it is, and then we'll go and have it. Then we'll figure out what to do from there. So long story short, had a couple of biopsies, and 2 separate biopsies through a CT scan. They would send me into the CT scan, roll me out, and go and take another piece of it. So they took at least, between the 2 biopsies, 20 plus samples, and they sent it down to Emory Hospital, which is a sarcoma cancer specialist hospital, because they said what it looked like from the MRI is that it was a soft tissue sarcoma. And they weren't quite sure exactly what type of tumor it was. And they said, you know, it could be, we think it may be, they weren't sure, leiomyosarcoma. They said if it is that, cancer radiation isn't going to shrink it. So the only option is to go and surgically remove it before it hits the bloodstream, because once it hits the bloodstream, then we will have to hit it with radiation and chemo hard, and go after it hard. So we got to schedule the time to go and get it out. So I'm like, all right, fine. Now, mind you, during this whole process, so this was, they found it in the beginning to middle of September. I had my first surgery the beginning of November. So there were 2 months of, it's just a cyst, no big deal, okay. So then from the beginning of November after that surgery through January 15th is when my second surgery date was. So between that time, we were going back and forth. Is it cancer? Is it not? Is it cancer? Is it not? And it is, right? I'd have my surgeon, my colorectal surgeon, would call me up, and he'd be like, and you guys, I've had him on the show prior. If you haven't listened to his episode, you might want to. He gives a lot of tips about being in an ostomy. Anyways, so we would go back and forth, and my whole big thing was, don't put me in a bag. I don't want to be in an ostomy bag. I had friends who had cancer. I had a girlfriend who had cancer, and she had beat her tumor. Her tumor had shrunk, and she had done it through chemo, and she had done it through natural. She did some natural homeopathic remedies. She did, vitamin C IV drips, and she did that on top of having chemo. And they're like, this isn't going to work on that. Chemo's not going to work. And so I would fight with him. I don't want to be in a bag, guys. I don't want to be in a bag. And I remember finding out I had cancer in the first place when it was cancer. I had such a temper tantrum. I let myself just have a fit saying, this isn't right. I'm too young. I don't want to go through this. I don't want to do this. Like, this isn't fair. I would look up at the sky and I'd be like, God, you don't want me there. You don't want me home yet. I'm mad. I have too much living to do. I have too many things that I want to do in this life. And this isn't like, I can't let it happen to me. Like, it can't. And from there, I started doing, now prior to all this, guys, I meditated for years, like for years I meditated. And I would sit in my meditation and I started to do some practices of, what am I supposed to be learning from this tumor? Why is it here? And I would start to ask those questions in my meditation. Like, I would sit down, I'd take a deep breath, I'd get very settled, and I'd be like, why are you here? What is the lesson I'm supposed to be learning from you? And I tried to listen, and maybe it was trying to teach me to slow down. I don't really remember, but you know, guys, I ate healthy. I ate organic food. I ate very clean. I exercised every day. I did all of the right things. So it was like, why is this tumor here? And mind you, this tumor has nothing to do with my family's history. It had nothing to do with the Lynch Syndrome. This was something completely different. And they're not sure why it showed up. So regardless of all of that, my surgeon yelled at me finally. He said, listen, if you end up in an ostomy, it's going to be a last resort because my only job is to save your life. And I have spent 2 weeks awake at night trying to figure out how to get this tumor out, how to work this surgery, because I've never had anything like this before. And I've spent 2 weeks at night thinking about you and your surgery. So if you end up in an ostomy, it's because it's my last option, and I mean last option. So needless to say, we know how that ended up, and I'll talk about how I was after that. But guys, going through having cancer, going through everything I did, I would, like I said, I'd meditate and I'd ask the tumor, why are you here? What are the lessons I'm supposed to be learning? And I think it was trying to teach me to slow down, to stop needing so much, to stop working so hard, to stop spending night and day on phone calls and all of that. I truly believe, like, spend more time with your family. And I remember going through everything, and I'm like, all I wanted to do was be with my family, my kids, my family, my close friends, and that was it. Like, I didn't care about anything else. I started giving my stuff away. I started giving, and at the time, I mean, guys, I had a couple of very successful businesses, extremely successful businesses that, you know, is pretty much unheard of in the direct sales world. It's that top 1%. I'm not going to get into numbers, but it's, you know, I was in the top 1% of direct sales with the income that I brought in. But I'll tell you, it came with a lot of work. It was nights, weekends, daytime. It wasn't just, you know, what do you do on social media? It was, you know, meetings and trainings and flying around, and it was a lot. And I started, you know, and when you make a lot of money, you spend a lot of money. I bought, you know, multiple Louis Vuitton bags and Christian Louboutin shoes, and I had all that stuff. I did all that. And at the end of the day, what I took away from that is stuff doesn't mean anything. Money's great. Money is great. It's great to have money. It's great to be able to pay your bills. Money buys you freedom, so I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. Money buys you freedom, and you can give it away. But what I learned is I needed to slow down. For me, I needed to stop working so hard. I needed to stop spending so many hours on training and learning and doing that stuff. That was the lesson that I was learning. And when I was sitting in my meditations and I was slowing myself down, some of the things that I would do things like, I would imagine, you know, those smiley faces that, you know, the smiley emoji. I started to imagine tons of smiley emojis running through my veins and smiling at all of my cells and cleaning my body up. Like, I would do meditations like that. I would do light meditations where I could see a white light just running through my body, creating it to be healthier. I would also pray a lot. I'm very spiritual. I'm a very spiritual person. And the month before we found the tumor, I had said to my husband, because I'm an avid reader too, as you guys know, I said to my husband, I said, John, you know what book I've never read? I've never read the Bible. And he said, you've never read it? I go, I've never read it. Like, it's, you know, I've gone to church, I've done all that stuff, but I never quite understood it. So I've never really read the actual Bible. And it was a month before they found the tumor, I got the Bible. And I started to read it, and I started to read passages, and I started to try and put it together. And then through those months, through that year, I read the entire Bible. Every morning I would get up, I would read the Bible, I would try and understand certain parts of it, I would meditate to it, I would ask questions, because I wanted to learn. And I think that it brought me very much closer to, whether you want to call it, it's God to me, but whether you call it, God or the universe or your spirit, like whatever you want to call it, like to me, I've learned there's something bigger out there, where there's something more than just where we are today. And again, like I said, I'm getting very personal with you guys. But there's something bigger. There's something more here. There's something more that we can't see, but it's very close to us. Like I would feel energy around me at times. I would feel, you know what, I might as well just tell you. So one night I was sleeping and I woke up to a voice telling me to get on my knees. And I rolled out of bed and I got on my knees, and I remember I was praying. I don't remember what I was praying for. I don't remember what I said. I don't remember any of that. And then I just remember getting back up, rolling over, going to bed, and going back to sleep. Then there was another instance, the day of my surgery, the day of my final surgery. And I remember going into the hospital and I was so scared. I was so afraid of what was going to happen. And I go into surgery, or I'm getting ready for surgery, and they're prepping me, and I'm just scared. And I just remember praying, like, God, I'm scared. Like, I'm scared. And guys, whether you believe this or not, this is just my story. This is just what came from me. This is what happened to me. I felt a hand on my shoulder. I was alone in the area. Nobody was with me. And I felt a hand on my shoulder. And I looked over, and he was there, but he wasn't there, if that makes any sense. Like there was nobody there, but he was there. I could feel it. I could physically feel it. And then the only thing that happened to me was I felt this sense of peace and calmness run through my entire body. And I felt, and I said, no matter what happens out of this, I'm going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And I just remember that peace. And I went into surgery. I woke up out of surgery. My surgeon comes in. He's telling me, and I usually don't remember anything out of anesthesia, but I did. Now, mind you, it was a 9-hour surgery I was under for 9 hours. My poor husband had a very long day that day. My kids, my family, all of them. So I looked at him, and he said, first thing I said to him, did we get the effer? Like, did we get it? And he said, we got it. And I said, okay. And then he went to walk away, and he turned around and he looked at me and he goes, oh, I'll just tell you later. And I knew in that moment that I was in an ostomy bag. He didn't need to tell me. My husband, John, came in and he looked at me and he gave me a kiss, and I looked at him, and I don't even remember if I even said hi to him. I think I just looked at him and said, I'm in an ostomy, aren't I? And he said, and he just nodded his head, and he knew how much I was so against being in an ostomy that, like, I fought it because I thought it was ugly. I thought it was smelly. I thought it would ruin my life. I thought I couldn't do all the things that I did. Like, those were all the stories that I told myself prior. And when I came out of surgery and he said I was in an ostomy bag, he just nodded his head, and I said, okay. Let's get me up. Let's get me out of the hospital, and let's go to California next week. By the way, guys, I was going to meet Tyra for, I think, the second time with another group of people. So anyways, and that was in California. And I remember my surgeon coming and going, I go, all right, so let's go. Like, I got to get up. I got to get moving. And that was the first thing. I just got to get up. I got to get moving. I got to get healing. I got to get walking. And I did, and my surgeon said, you're not going to California in 8 days. You're going to be in the hospital for 7. Like, you've got to heal. And I said, no, I'm out of the hospital. Surgery was on a Friday. I go, I'll be out of the hospital on Monday. Mind you, I got a UTI from the catheter, but I was out of the hospital on Tuesday. And guys, I was on a plane on that Saturday night. And I did go to California because it was something that I needed to do. And I think because I did that, because I had something to look forward to, because I believed that there was something bigger out here, because I believe that there's something bigger for us, and that my journey wasn't over, and that I had so much that I needed to share and bring to light to a lot of people. And there's a lot of things that I still need to do. I've had ups and downs over the last 6 years, but there was still things that I needed to do. I knew that I was going to be okay, and I just went right at it. So I went, and of course, like I said, I think the tumor was telling me to slow down, but I went to California. I came back from California. I shared my story on stages. But I'm not running as hard. I've kind of walked away. We moved to New York City for 3 years. Tyra had closed her doors to the business about a year after that. And I wasn't working as hard at that. I haven't worked like I did before. I've walked pretty much walked away from the direct sales industry. I am with a company. I do like their products, but I don't want to build a team anymore. I don't want to go and right now, I don't want to put all that effort, all that work into it. But if I do like products or something, I will share them because I believe in the products. And it doesn't matter whether, this one direct sales company that I am in, I do love their products. So, they're all holistic, they're college, it's collagen and home and clean living home products and things like that. So I do like those products. But my journey wasn't about that anymore. My journey is this podcast. It's talking to you guys on a weekly basis. It's talking to other ostomates. It's helping break the stigma. It's working with Hollister. It's working with all these other things. And just a few weeks ago, I signed a contract with a talent agency for acting and modeling, which at 51 years old, I thought I was, am I too old for this? And so I know that my journey is just beginning. Even still, it's ever evolving. And I think that is what holds true to each and every one of us. Our lives are ever evolving. There's a reason why we ended up in our ostomies. There's a reason why you're in an ostomy. There's either you need to, slow down your life. Maybe you need to live bigger. You need to share a journey. Maybe there's someone that you're going to inspire because you're in your ostomy and you're helping them. Whatever that is, there's a reason that you're in your ostomy. We all talk about this, every guest that I've had on the show. It was our second chance at life. It was almost like we were born all over again. It's like we woke up. A lot of us, and I know I do, a lot of us celebrate our stomaversaries. I celebrate it as it's another birthday. So I have my regular birthday in December, and then I have my stoma birthday, my stoma, who I have nicknamed Ivan, in January. So it's like winter months, I'm celebrating birthdays and being here in this life. So know that you're making a difference in someone else's life. You're in this ostomy, you're in your ostomy for a purpose, and you're making a difference. Whether you know you are or not, there's someone somewhere you're affecting, and I just want you to know that. So anyways, this week, it's been a long time. I don't know if I've ever shared all that I just shared in this podcast about my own personal journey. I love sharing your journeys I love sharing your journeys more than I like talking about my own. However, I just thought it was important of, the cancer journey for me. After I woke up out of the ostomy, guys, if you follow me, I work out, I eat right, I have lived in New York City, I run, I fly, I've traveled all over. There is nothing that I can't do. I even did a fitness competition with my ostomy. I used to do fitness competitions 12 years ago, a dozen years ago, but 2 years after my ostomy surgery, I did a fitness competition with my bag. And I did it to show that regardless of whatever is going on, we are beautiful and it does not matter. So know that life doesn't have to be different. Yes, there's going to be struggles. Yes, there's going to be things that you're going to have to overcome. But it's through that journey that you learn how strong you are. And on the other side, it is always so good. On the other side of journeys, you always look back and be like, wow, I grew through that. I can't believe I did that. Look how strong I am. Look what I can do. and know that you can do anything that you put your heart and soul into, right? Anything that you believe, what you believe is true is true. So know that you're just very special, and I love you, and I hope you guys have an amazing, amazing rest of your week, and we will join you next week because I have a special guest for you next week. Talk soon. Thank you so much for joining us this week. If you enjoyed this podcast, get the behind the scenes at LeeAnneHayden.com/ostomy updates. And also, if you found this episode encouraging, please screenshot it and share it on Instagram. And don't forget to tag me and also the person who was on the episode with me. I occasionally will do special gifts for anyone who does do a screenshot and share it on Instagram or in your stories. Also, lastly, please go to Apple or Google, rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast to keep up with them every single week. I enjoy you guys. Thank you so much for being here.